If you're a leader or an influencer who is helping other people to pursue God, it's important that you understand the role of each person in that basic discipleship relationship. You, the other person that you're influencing, and God. Essentially, your role is to speak the truth in love. And we get this in part from Ephesians chapter 4. It says, "Instead we will speak the truth in love, growing in every way more and more like Christ, who is the head of his body, the church." Now, there are a lot of ways that you might speak the truth in love in the process of helping someone to pursue God. It might be inviting someone to church with you, or sharing the message of Christ with someone. It might be inviting someone to join your small group or to take the next step in becoming more of a leader in your group. It might be pointing out a problem that needs to be addressed or giving biblical input about a situation. But the part you play is when it's the right time to speak, you open your mouth, applying God's truth to that situation. Now, you need to understand you're not responsible for the other person's part. The other person's role is to respond to the truth for themselves. And it's completely up to them to decide how they want to respond to God's truth through you. They can believe it or not believe it, obey it or not obey it. And even Jesus experienced this kind of response. In John chapter 7, we see a good glimpse of it. There was a lot of grumbling about him among the crowds. Some argued he's a good man, but others said he's nothing but a fraud who deceives the people. They all heard the same words. They all saw the same miracles. But even Jesus did not have control over the different responses that people made. You can't change anybody's heart. You can't make decisions for others. The response that people make is completely up to them. The problem is a lot of people resort to different kinds of manipulation to try to make the other person respond a certain way. And other times people put a lot of pressure on themselves or take on a load of guilt if people don't do the right thing in response to their words. But this is where God's role comes in. And God's part is fourfold. First of all, he's already done everything to provide for people to know him in the first place. Jesus died on the cross. He rose from the dead to accomplish our salvation. God's already been at work, and he's already accomplished the most important thing long before you and I came on the scene. But then the second thing is that God helps you know what to say. As Jesus sent his followers out to tell the surrounding towns about him, he gave them some instructions in Matthew chapter 10. Don't worry about how to respond or what to say. God will give you the right words at the right time. For it is not you who will be speaking. It will be the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. So your part is to speak. God isn't going to do that for you, but he is going to lead you about what to say. And then third, God works in and through the circumstances of life. Romans chapter 8 says, "We know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them." For example, God can bring a certain person across your path at a certain time to hear what you need to tell them. God can orchestrate the circumstances in people's lives that will encourage them to be more open to hear what you have to say. And then fourth, God works directly internally in people's hearts. Jesus said in John chapter 16 that when the Holy Spirit comes, he will convict the world of its sin and of God's righteousness and of the coming judgment. So the Holy Spirit is responsible to bring a change of heart, a change of attitude, and he can use your words to do it. And so it's important that you don't try to do what only God can do, and you don't expect God to do what he's given you to do. Take a minute to think about, or if you're viewing this in a group, to talk about the relationship between our part, God's part, and the part of the person that you're influencing.